Have you ever wondered how one scandalous leak could destroy an entire empire overnight? Picture this. A stunning millionaire, revered as a philanthropic tycoon, and his radiant pregnant wife, seemingly the perfect power couple. But beneath the glossy photographs and luxurious charity galas, dark secrets simmer. When an explosive video surfaces online, revealing her husband's steamy affair, the pregnant wife doesn't crumble in silence. Instead, she steps into the blinding lights of a press conference, shocking the world and obliterating his career in a single heartbeat. Get ready for a tale of betrayal, resilience, and a downfall so swift it will leave you breathless. Ava Carmichael first met Oliver Carmichael at a fundraiser for the Wilson Children's Hospital in Chicago. Oliver was the guest of honor, a self-made millionaire who had gained national fame after selling his tech startup to Google for a fortune rumored to be in the hundreds of millions. Ava, then a junior event planner, was charged with ensuring the evening ran smoothly. From the moment she locked eyes with him across the packed ballroom, her world shifted. He approached her with a gentle smile and an outstretched hand. Polite conversation turned into an exchange of dreams and life goals. The chemistry between them was electric. Oliver, charming yet aloof, was drawn to Ava's warm-hearted nature and pragmatic approach to life. Their whirlwind romance made headlines in society pages when Oliver took Ava to a private island in the Caribbean. Photos of them strolling barefoot on a secluded beach landed in People magazine, and whispers of an engagement soon surfaced in tabloids. By the time he proposed under a canopy of twinkling fairy lights in front of 1,000 roses, Ava was head over heels. The wedding was a grand affair at the historic Drake Hotel, with the CEO of Morgan Stanley among the guests, and a performance by a famous R&B singer that Oliver secretly flew in. Their union was hailed as a modern fairy tale, the philanthropic tech millionaire and the compassionate event planner uniting their energies to make the world a better place. But in every fairy tale lurks a moment of darkness, and for Ava and Oliver, it was just around the corner. A year after their lavish wedding, Ava discovered she was pregnant. The news filled the Carmichael mansion with excitement. Oliver appeared overjoyed. He'd often spoken of wanting a large family, and Ava was ecstatic to finally be starting that journey with him. They announced the pregnancy during a red carpet charity gala benefiting children with rare diseases. Ava wore a flowing emerald green gown that discreetly showed off a blossoming baby bump. When she and Oliver stepped onto the stage, the entire crowd erupted in applause. Cameras flashed, capturing the moment Oliver placed a tender hand on Ava's stomach. Soon after, local outlets like the Chicago Tribune covered the Carmichael baby buzz, praising Oliver for his ongoing philanthropic endeavors. A short feature on NBC's Today Show hinted that the Carmichaels might become America's new it couple. Ava was flattered, albeit slightly overwhelmed by the sudden attention. Behind the scenes, however, something was off. Oliver had become more distant, engrossed in late-night phone calls and cryptic text messages. When Ava asked about them, he brushed her concerns aside with practiced ease. "It's just business, sweetheart." She tried to believe him. After all, she knew the burden of running a multi-million-dollar conglomerate was enormous. But as her belly grew, so did her suspicions. Faint clues, the lingering trace of unfamiliar perfume on his collar. A second phone he never let her see gnawed at her peace of mind. Still, Ava reassured herself that any man under immense pressure could behave evasively. She clung to hope that once their baby arrived, Oliver would slow down and refocus on their family. Little did she know the cracks forming in their marriage were about to split wide open. With each passing week of her pregnancy, Ava noticed that Oliver's schedule became more erratic. Some nights he would rush through dinner offering half-hearted compliments about her cooking and then dash off to emergency meetings. Other times he'd claim to be traveling for business expansions, leaving Ava alone in their expansive mansion, the echo of her own footsteps, a constant reminder of her isolation. What truly unsettled Ava was the subtle shift in Oliver's demeanor. He was no longer the attentive husband who'd once tracked down her favorite bakery an hour away to bring her freshly baked croissants. Instead, he seemed perpetually preoccupied, scrolling his phone under the dinner table, offering only partial attention to Ava's excited updates about the baby's kicks. In an attempt to distract herself from mounting worries, Ava threw herself into philanthropic work. She organized a fundraiser for hurricane relief, collaborating with real-life crisis manager and PR expert Liz White, a name well known in Chicago's elite circles for orchestrating big fundraising galas. Liz noticed Ava's tense smile and asked if everything was okay at home. Ava merely shrugged it off with a practiced grin. Little did Ava know Liz would soon become more than just a professional acquaintance. Liz's skill in handling scandals and public image crises would be invaluable when the Carmichael family's private pain exploded onto the public stage. For now, Ava remained clueless about the danger simmering beneath the surface. She believed the biggest concern she faced was coaxing Oliver to show up on time for doctor's appointments, but in the hush of her mind, a quiet fear took root. If Oliver was pushing her away, who or what was he pulling closer? Ava never considered herself a snoop. She valued privacy and believed that trust was the bedrock of any strong relationship. But as uncertainty haunted her nights, she found herself unable to resist the urge to peek into Oliver's world. One evening, when Oliver announced yet another urgent meeting and sped off in his car, Ava was left in the large, empty mansion, feeling the baby stir inside her. The sense of foreboding was unbearable. She walked into his home office, a spacious, modern study lined with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. Her eyes landed on his desktop computer, which glowed with a faint screensaver. With trembling hands, she jiggled the mouse. To her surprise, no password prompt appeared. The desktop opened immediately to an email account. A pang of guilt clutched her, but desperation drove her to click. Most messages were innocuous business correspondences, but a name caught her eye. Miranda Devereaux, a high-profile interior designer from New York. Ava recalled Oliver mentioning Miranda once, someone he was hiring for a new condo project. She clicked on the email thread and found an exchange of flirtatious notes, culminating in a few short video clips. Heart pounding. Ava hesitated before opening them. The first clip showed Oliver at a hotel bar, with Miranda leaning in intimately. The second clip was longer security camera footage from the hotel corridor. It showed Oliver and Miranda entering a suite together late at night, arms wrapped around each other. A wave of nausea overwhelmed Ava, nearly overshadowing the usual pregnancy queasiness. Without a second thought, she pressed forward and sent the emails and clips to herself. She had seen enough, and her world would never be the same again. Oliver returned well past midnight, reeking of expensive cologne. The moment he stepped inside, Ava's tears were already running down her cheeks. She waited for him in the living room. The lights dimmed to a cold glow. Her hands gripped her phone, the forwarded videos ready to play at any second. Ava, he called, visibly startled by her tear-streaked face. "What's wrong?" She didn't bother with niceties. Heart pounding, she pressed play on her phone, letting the damning footage speak for itself. The room filled with the muffled sounds of Oliver's laughter in that hotel corridor, Miranda's figure clinging to his arm. Oliver's eyes widened, a flicker of panic crossing his usually controlled features. He reached for the phone. "Where did you get this?" he demanded, voice tight. Ava yanked it away, raw hurt radiating in her gaze. "So it's true," she breathed. "You've been cheating on me. With her." At first, Oliver tried to deny it. Words like misunderstanding and business acquaintance tumbled from his mouth. But the evidence was incontrovertible. Finally, he sank onto the sofa, running a hand through his hair. It was just once he muttered, eyes downcast. "A mistake. You have to believe me." Ava's indignation flared. "A mistake. You've been emailing her for months from what I can see." "Don't lie to me, Oliver. Not now." He bowed his head, too ashamed or too trapped to continue. Furious tears streamed down Ava's face, and she felt the baby kick within her, a cruel reminder of the life she carried, the future she was trying to protect. In that instant, the fairy tale they'd built shattered into pieces, leaving Ava with only heartbreak and betrayal. Ava spent the night in the guest bedroom, barely sleeping. Every time she closed her eyes, the images of Oliver with Miranda replayed like a cruel nightmare. By dawn, she felt hollowed out, yet beneath the grief grew a potent anger she had never experienced before. Before Oliver left for work the next day, she confronted him in the kitchen. She was still in her pajamas, hair disheveled, a world away from the poised socialite she'd become known as in Chicago's charity circuit. "End it," Ava demanded, voice quivering with anger. "Break it off with Miranda for good, and tell the press you're stepping down from the Devereaux project, and you'll be going to marriage counseling with me." Oliver looked at her for a long moment. He seemed more fatigued than she had ever seen him. "I'll end it, Ava," he promised, exhaling sharply. "I don't want to lose our family." The words should have comforted her, but they didn't. The betrayal ran too deep. "I'm pregnant with your child, Oliver. Do you even understand what this stress is doing to me, to our baby?" His silence spoke louder than any defense he could muster. He offered a half-hearted nod before leaving. Ava watched him go, unsure if she had just saved their marriage or delayed its collapse. Though she demanded a swift end to his infidelity, a haunting question nagged at her. Could trust ever be fully repaired once it was broken? Little did she know the storm was only beginning, and a single promise from Oliver would do little to protect them from the catastrophe that awaited. Unable to bear the suffocating loneliness of the mansion, Ava sought solace with her closest friend, Delilah Pierce. They met at a cozy neighborhood cafe, where Delilah arrived with open arms and a wave of concern evident in her eyes. In hushed tones, Ava recounted the entire saga from the suspicious late nights to the damning hotel footage. Delilah listened occasionally, clutching Ava's hand, her coffee growing cold. "I always had a bad feeling about Oliver's constant business trips," she admitted, a note of regret in her voice. "I'm sorry I never brought it up." Ava found some measure of comfort in Delilah's empathy. "I feel so stupid," she said, tears threatening to spill once more. "How could I not see it sooner?" Delilah gave Ava's hand a firm squeeze. "Don't blame yourself. Oliver's the one who made this choice. You're carrying his child. You deserved better." Over the next hour, Delilah offered unwavering support, suggesting therapy resources, and even offering to help Ava prepare for any potential legal issues. "You have to protect yourself, especially with the baby on the way. I know a great lawyer, Samantha Holden, who handled my cousin's messy divorce, just in case." Though the mention of a lawyer made Ava's stomach churn, she recognized the importance of covering all her bases. As they parted ways, Delilah vowed to stand by her side through the ordeal, no matter how ugly it got. Walking back to her car, Ava felt slightly less isolated, but the protective bubble of friendship could only do so much. She would have to face the storm head-on, whether Oliver kept his promise or not. A few days later, the hush of early morning was shattered by Ava's phone, buzzing relentlessly on the bedside table. She groggily picked it up to see dozens of messages and missed calls. Her heart pounded. Could something have happened to Oliver? But as she opened social media, dread coiled in her stomach. A gossip account with thousands of followers had posted a scandalous blind item about a tech mogul with a pregnant wife caught in an affair with a New York socialite. The post included grainy stills from the very hotel footage Ava had discovered, though faces were blurred. Her phone exploded with notifications, friends, acquaintances, even random strangers wanting details. Overwhelmed, Ava felt the baby move as though sensing the turmoil. She quickly turned off her phone, tears stinging her eyes. In a panic, she rushed downstairs to find Oliver. He was in his office phone, pressed to his ear, shouting into the receiver. She overheard him say, "I don't care what it costs, just kill the story," before slamming the phone down. Their gazes locked. Ava's heart sank at the desperation etched across his features. "Someone leaked it?" she asked, voice trembling. He nodded grimly. "Yes, but we can't be certain who. It might be someone from the hotel staff or someone else." He shot her a look, as if suspecting she had shared the video. Ava bristled, stepping back. "Do you really think I'd do that? You promised to end this, Oliver. Now look what's happening." Guilt flashed across his face, replaced almost instantly by defensiveness. "We need to put out a statement denying everything. My entire career could be on the line." Ava swallowed hard. She wasn't ready for the media circus, but it was already knocking at their door. Their once private nightmare was about to go very, very public. Oliver scrambled to manage the crisis, summoning his high-profile PR team, led by the formidable Kate Winthrop, a specialist in damage control for celebrity and corporate scandals. Within hours, she arrived at the Carmichael mansion, with a flurry of assistants' laptops and a meticulously organized crisis management plan. "We're dealing with an unverified leak," Kate said briskly. "We have two primary strategies: deny or deflect. If we deny, you risk fueling the rumor mill. If we deflect, we might direct attention elsewhere, but it has to be believable." Oliver paced the room, raking a hand through his hair. "What about claiming these images are doctored? That this is just an attempt to undermine my philanthropic work?" Kate's expression remained neutral. "We can try that, but the pictures look too authentic. And if more footage surfaces, we'll be caught lying." Ava observed the meeting from a corner, her mind swirling. She felt like a spectator at the unveiling of her own heartbreak, reduced to a mere prop in Oliver's PR strategy. As talk of hush money and NDAs swirled, she felt the baby kick a stark reminder that this crisis was not just about reputations, but the future of her family. Eventually, Oliver turned to her. "Ava, I need you to stand by my side. We have to present a united front." His words were a bitter pill. She recalled his promise to end the affair. Yet here they were, strategizing about half-truths and misdirection. Ava thought of the unborn child, of the intense scrutiny they would soon face. With shaky resolve, she nodded. She hated the idea of lying to the public, but she also couldn't bear the thought of the scandal smashing their life to bits. She had no idea that the worst was still to come. Even as Oliver's PR team prepared an official statement labeling the footage misleading and maliciously edited, a new crisis brewed behind the scenes. Miranda Devereaux. The woman at the center of the scandal refused to quietly fade away. Instead, she began making demands of her own. One evening, Oliver returned home from an emergency meeting with Miranda's lawyers. Ava watched his strained face as he poured himself a stiff drink. "She's threatening to release a full statement," he muttered. "Claims she's got text messages, voice memos, everything. She wants compensation, or she'll go public." Ava felt an icy dread settle in her stomach. If Miranda released more evidence, the shallow denials being fed to the media would crumble instantly. "So what are you going to do?" she asked, voice tight. Oliver's silence was telling. He tossed back his drink before answering. "We're negotiating. She wants a huge sum, plus some endorsement deals for her design business. It's extortion, basically." The thought of Oliver paying off Miranda made Ava's skin crawl. "And you're seriously considering it?" He ran a hand over his face. "If it means saving my reputation, yes. You don't understand what's at stake. Our philanthropic work, my investments, people rely on me. If I go down, a lot of people will be hurt." For a split second, Ava wondered if Miranda was truly the villain here. After all, she hadn't vowed to be faithful. Oliver had. The line between right and wrong blurred beneath the weight of scandal, greed, and betrayal. In that moment, Ava realized that Oliver's talk of saving his reputation might overshadow his concern for their marriage or the innocent child they were bringing into a world of lies. Waking up to relentless texts and calls from acquaintances, Ava found her anxiety hitting new heights. Even visits to her OB/GYN became fraught with tension as she feared being recognized and judged. Everywhere she went, it felt like eyes were on her, analyzing the scandal. Social media was ablaze with speculation. A few brave tabloids even claimed to have exclusive new evidence pending release. The constant swirl of rumors left Ava hollow and exhausted. Did half of Chicago already assume Oliver was cheating? Did they pity her, or worse, mock her for staying alone in her bedroom? Ava scrolled through her phone, scanning social media. She came across a tweet from Anderson Cooper, a real-life figure known for calling out hypocrisy on his CNN segments, commenting generally about the moral failings of the wealthy and powerful. Although it didn't mention Oliver by name, the timing was suspiciously pointed. She felt a spike of anxiety. Ava found herself questioning everything she thought she knew. How many times had Oliver lied? Was he truly remorseful or just scrambling to hide his tracks? And what if Miranda wasn't the only affair? The seeds of doubt took root, thriving in the soil of shattered trust. One thing became undeniable. If this story escalated further, Oliver's polished facade would collapse. The philanthropic golden boy would be exposed as a fraud, and Ava would be caught in the crossfire. For the sake of her baby, she had to find a way to protect herself, even if it meant going against the man she had once adored. Just as Kate Winthrop and her crisis team finalized a hopefully worded statement for Oliver to deliver, the bomb dropped. Late one evening, a popular YouTube channel called City Secrets Unmasked posted the unedited high-definition version of the hotel footage. This time, the camera angle was clear as day. Oliver's face was unmistakable, laughing, leaning in, whispering to Miranda, before disappearing into a room. Within minutes, the video was trending. National outlets picked it up, and Twitter erupted with the hashtag Carmichael Scandal. Oliver's name soared to the top of search engines, overshadowing even major political news. Ava watched the chaos unfold from the living room television, the baby's weight pressing on her ribs as if in response to her stress. She felt an overwhelming desire to flee to escape the relentless spotlight. But this was her life. There was nowhere to hide from the digital mob. Within hours, the Carmichael mansion was besieged by paparazzi. Some had the audacity to shout questions about her pregnancy, insinuating that the unborn child might not even be Oliver's. Ava gasped at the cruelty. The speculation stung like an open wound. Oliver was unreachable, holed up in his corporate office downtown, bombarded by phone calls from investors and lawyers. Alone. Ava cradled her belly tears, silently rolling down her face. The humiliation was staggering. She wondered, had Oliver realized in his pursuit of forbidden thrills that the collateral damage would be so immense as the scandal spread beyond the local Chicago scene? Ava knew one thing for sure: there was no more denying or deflecting. The world had just gotten a front-row seat to their marital nightmare. Desperate to hear Oliver's side of the story, and furious at his vanishing act, Ava summoned her strength and drove to the headquarters of Carmichael Innovations, located in a sleek, glass-paneled tower in the heart of downtown Chicago. Security guards recognized her instantly and allowed her up, though they exchanged anxious glances. Inside Oliver's office, she found him in a tense meeting with his board of directors. They huddled around a massive mahogany table, glowering at him as if he were a pariah. The room fell silent when Ava walked in her visibly pregnant figure, a jarring reminder of the personal turmoil overshadowing their corporate meltdown. "Gentlemen," Oliver began, attempting composure. "This is my wife, Ava." She faced them chin high, despite the dread curling in her stomach. "Could I speak to my husband alone?" she asked softly, though her eyes burned with determination. Most of the board members exited without protest, some casting disapproving looks at Oliver. Once they were gone, Ava unleashed the questions that had kept her awake at night. "You said you'd end things, but the world has proof that you didn't. How could you lie to me again?" Oliver rubbed his temples, eyes bloodshot from stress. Miranda was supposed to keep it quiet. She swore she wouldn't let it get this far. "I tried to fix it, Ava, I really did." His words only stoked her fury. "All you did was attempt to bury the truth with money," she said, voice trembling. "You've destroyed our marriage, our child's future, everything." They stared at each other across the empty boardroom. For the first time, Oliver's confident mask cracked, revealing a man trapped by his own misdeeds. "What do you want me to do?" he finally asked, voice hollow. Ava couldn't answer. She was no longer sure there was anything left he could do to make this right. In the ensuing days, the corporate fallout grew dire. Prominent investors in Carmichael Innovations withdrew support, worried about the scandal's impact on share prices. Philanthropic partners quietly severed ties, not wishing to be associated with an affair so brazenly exposed. Oliver spent most nights at the office attempting to salvage deals. The mansion felt more like a tomb than a home. Paparazzi still lurked outside the gates, waiting for a glimpse of the troubled couple. Ava found herself pacing the halls, mind whirling with uncertainty. A scheduled charity event for the Wilson Children's Hospital. A cause close to both Oliver and Ava dropped Oliver from the speaker lineup. This move spoke volumes. If even the hospital Oliver once championed was distancing itself, he was rapidly running out of allies. Realizing that her own philanthropic work was now at risk of being overshadowed by scandal, Ava called Liz White, the crisis manager she had worked with months ago. Over coffee in a secluded part of the city, Ava poured out her worries about the baby, the paparazzi, and the unrelenting media scrutiny. Liz listened sympathetically. "You need to start thinking about your own image, Ava, not just Oliver's. Because right now everyone sees you as the victim. But if this keeps spiraling, they might start seeing you as complicit or naive. Ava swallowed hard. She didn't want a war with Oliver, but it was becoming clear she needed to protect herself and her unborn child. She left that meeting with Liz, knowing she had to make some hard decisions, and soon. By now, the Carmichael scandal was headline news across major networks. CNN's Anderson Cooper, having previously hinted at the moral failings of the powerful, dedicated a segment specifically to Oliver's downfall, inviting legal and ethical experts to weigh in. The public response was brutal. Many saw Oliver as the epitome of hypocritical arrogance, preaching philanthropy, while betraying his pregnant wife behind closed doors. At the mansion, Ava tried to maintain some semblance of normalcy. She kept her prenatal appointments, attempted to rest, and even started decorating the nursery in a soft palette of yellows and greys. Yet every trip out was a gauntlet of flashing cameras and shouted questions. She began dreading the very thought of leaving home. One particular morning, the tension became unbearable. Oliver returned from another fruitless series of investor meetings, shoulders slumped. When he saw Ava packing a suitcase in the master bedroom, a flash of panic ignited in his eyes. "What are you doing?" he asked, voice trembling. "I'm going to stay with Delilah for a while," she replied, zipping the suitcase shut. "I need space. This environment isn't healthy for me or the baby." Oliver opened his mouth to protest, but no words came out. Instead, he deflated like a punctured balloon, slumping against the doorway. "Ava, please," he finally managed. "I'm losing everything. I can't lose you too." She looked at him, sadness washing over her. "I wish you'd thought of that before, Miranda. I need time to figure out if there's anything left worth saving." His eyes brimmed with tears, but he said nothing more. Ava dragged her suitcase down the grand staircase, stepping out into the barrage of paparazzi alone, her heart heavy with betrayal and sorrow. It was during Ava's stay at Delilah's cozy brownstone that she received a phone call from a blocked number. Although she usually avoided unknown calls, something compelled her to answer. A soft voice introduced itself. "This is Miranda Devereaux. Please don't hang up." Shock rendered Ava momentarily mute. Her pulse hammered in her ears. Why would Miranda call her directly? She contemplated ending the call, but couldn't resist her curiosity. "What do you want?" she asked, struggling to keep her voice steady. Miranda sighed on the other end. "Believe it or not, I never intended for this mess to go public. Someone else got hold of the security footage. I can't say more without jeopardizing my safety, but I wanted you to know it wasn't me who leaked it." Ava's throat tightened. "That doesn't change what happened or how you and Oliver—" She paused, tears threatening. "You ruined my marriage, my life." A moment of silence passed. "I understand you hate me," Miranda said quietly. "But I'm calling because there's something else you should know. Oliver has been hiding more than just our affair. He's in deep trouble legally and financially. I'm sure you've noticed the deals collapsing around him. It's not just because of the scandal, there's a federal probe into his finances. Tax evasion, money laundering, I'm not certain. But it's serious." A swirl of nausea hit Ava. The idea that Oliver's downfall was bigger than an affair blindsided her. "How do you know this?" she finally managed. Miranda hesitated. "Let's just say I overheard some conversations." "Be careful, Ava. If the feds get involved, they won't hesitate to come after anyone close to Oliver, even you." Before Ava could respond, the line clicked off. She stared at her phone, heart racing with a new dread. Oliver's betrayal might pale in comparison to a looming legal catastrophe, and she was now unwittingly entangled in it. Miranda's warning weighed heavily on Ava's mind. She remembered Delilah's earlier recommendation to consult a lawyer. After days of sleepless nights, she mustered the courage to do just that. Through Delilah's referral, she met Samantha Holden, a skilled divorce attorney known for her tenacity in high-profile cases. They met in Samantha's sleek downtown office, shielded from prying paparazzi. Sitting across from the polished oak desk, Ava felt her cheeks burn with humiliation as she recounted Oliver's affair and Miranda's foreboding message about the feds. Samantha took thorough notes, her brow furrowed. This is bigger than just infidelity, Ava. If Oliver is facing a federal investigation for financial crimes, you need to protect your interests. If marital funds are implicated, the government could freeze assets. The words froze Ava's blood. I don't know the first thing about these allegations. I'm pregnant. I just want my baby to be safe. Samantha offered a sympathetic smile. I understand. My advice is to quietly file for legal separation. That way you create a clear line between your finances and Oliver's. If he's in legal jeopardy, it may protect you and your child from any fallout. And if things get worse, we can move forward with a full divorce. Though the idea of legally distancing herself from Oliver filled Ava with sadness. She knew it might be her only chance at safeguarding her child's future. With trembling hands, she signed an engagement letter, officially hiring Samantha as her attorney. As she left the office, a flurry of mixed emotions assailed her: grief for the marriage she once cherished, anger at Oliver's deceptions, and a glimmer of relief that she was finally taking control of her own fate. In the aftermath of the leaked video, Oliver's reputation took a nosedive. Investors fled in droves, stock prices for Carmichael Innovations tumbled, and philanthropic projects froze. The media was relentless, and yet the public had not heard directly from Ava beyond a few brief sightings and no-comment statements. The tabloids, sniffing blood, began speculating wildly. Was Ava quietly arranging a divorce settlement? Had Oliver threatened her into silence? Some articles even suggested that her pregnancy was a fabricated ruse to garner sympathy. When Liz White, the crisis manager, called to check on Ava, she proposed a bold solution. Ava, you need to tell your side of the story in your own words. Let the world see you're not just a silent, suffering wife. Ava hesitated. Standing in front of a microphone, addressing a horde of reporters while pregnant, no less, sounded terrifying. But Liz's argument made sense. The rumor mill was devouring her in absentia, and with Oliver refusing to come clean about his affair or financial dealings, it might be time to cut ties publicly. I'll do it, Ava finally said, surprising even herself with her resolve. But I'm not lying or covering for Oliver anymore. I'll tell the truth just enough to protect myself and my baby. Liz agreed, her voice brimming with encouragement. Leave the logistics to me. I'll arrange a controlled press conference, minimal chaos. But be ready. Once you open that door, there's no going back. Ava closed her eyes, feeling the baby move. She understood the gravity of her choice. This wasn't just about clearing her name. It was about reclaiming her identity and ensuring her child wouldn't be born into a vortex of secrets. In the days leading up to the press conference, Ava resided in a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. She prepared statements with Liz White, conferred with Samantha Holden, and braced herself for the inevitable media frenzy. All the while she heard almost nothing from Oliver. Then on the eve of her scheduled press appearance, she received a late-night phone call. It was Oliver, his voice shaking with desperation. Ava, please don't do this. Don't go public. It'll ruin any chance I have left to fix things. She steadied herself, fighting back tears. You've had every opportunity to fix this, Oliver. You chose not to. This press conference isn't about vengeance. It's about protecting myself and our baby. The silence on the other end was palpable. Finally, he spoke, a voice hollow. I understand you're angry. But you have no idea the legal mess I'm in. A public spectacle will just invite scrutiny. It could land me behind bars. A hollow laugh escaped Ava's lips. That's not my fault. You did this to yourself. Oliver's next words chilled her. If you ruin me, you ruin the future of this family. Think about that before you step in front of those cameras. She hung up, breathing heavily, as if she'd just run a marathon. For a moment, doubt tugged at her. She still cared for the father of her child, even after all his betrayals. But the time for illusions was over. Ava swallowed the lump in her throat and reminded herself why she was doing this, to clear her name, to safeguard her baby's future. Oliver had made his bed. Tomorrow, the world would finally hear her side. Morning dawned on Chicago gray clouds gathering in the sky, as if foretelling the tumultuous day ahead. Despite the swirling anxiety in her chest, Ava felt an unexpected sense of calm. She'd chosen a simple but elegant maternity dress in a soft ivory shade, the color symbolizing a fresh start in her mind. Liz White and Samantha Holden met her at the small conference venue, an airy minimalist space rented for the occasion. They'd intentionally avoided the grandiosity of a hotel ballroom, hoping to keep the focus on Ava's message rather than ostentatious surroundings. Security guards milled about outside, ensuring the event remained somewhat contained. Inside, journalists from major outlets like CNN. The Chicago Tribune and local TV stations fidgeted with microphones. Cameras were poised, ready to broadcast every second. The hush in the room was electric. Ava's heart drummed like thunder in her ears. She kept a hand on her belly, drawing strength from the life growing within. As Liz guided her onto the small stage, Ava spotted a handful of supportive faces in the front row. Delilah, Samantha, and even a hospital representative from Wilson Children's Hospital who had come to show solidarity. Taking a steadying breath, Ava stepped behind the podium. Flashbulbs sparked, and a wave of murmurs filled the room. The tension was thick like a coiled spring on the verge of releasing. It was time to speak her truth, not just about the affair, but about the flawed man behind the philanthropic facade and the toll his secrets had taken on her life. The calm before the storm was over. Ava Carmichael was about to face the world head-on. The conference room fell silent as Ava approached the microphone. For a moment, she simply stood there, letting the bright camera lights and hushed anticipation wash over her. "Good morning," she began, voice trembling slightly. "I'm Ava Carmichael. I'm here to address the rumors and speculation regarding my marriage to Oliver Carmichael." Eyes from every corner of the room locked onto her. Journalists leaned forward, pens poised. Cameras zoomed in, capturing every flicker of emotion. Ava's heart pounded like a drum, but she pressed on. She spoke of her pregnancy, how she had longed to start a family in a loving, stable home. She confessed that Oliver's affair was both devastating and humiliating, that she had discovered undeniable proof of his betrayal. She explained that while she once considered standing by him, his continued deception and the possibility of deeper legal entanglements made it impossible for her to remain silent. At one point, a wave of emotion gripped her. Ava paused, tears threatening to cloud her vision. She glanced at Delilah, who offered a reassuring nod. Summoning her courage, Ava continued. "I'm not here for revenge," she clarified, voice growing steadier. "I'm here to protect my child and to separate myself from the lies that have come to light. Any future decisions, including legal ones, will be made with the well-being of my baby in mind." When she finished, the room erupted in questions. Liz stepped in, reminding reporters to keep their inquiries respectful and that Ava's attorney would handle anything pertaining to potential lawsuits. Ava exhaled, her body trembling with relief and nerves. She had done it. She'd laid bare her pain, her intentions, her truth. At that moment, she had no idea how drastically this single press conference would alter the course of Oliver's life and hers. Ava's press conference ricocheted through the media like a lightning strike. Clipped segments ran on national news networks. The full recording went viral on YouTube. Social media platforms erupted with support, condemnation, and endless debate. Hashtags like "Stand with Ava" and "Carmichael Collapse" trended simultaneously. Public perception of Oliver flipped almost overnight. People who once admired him for his charitable work now saw him as a manipulative hypocrite. The sincerity in Ava's statement made it clear she was not seeking revenge, but merely staking her claim to dignity and security for her unborn child. A day after the press conference, CNN's Anderson Cooper weighed in again, praising Ava for her courage and condemning the toxic culture that allowed powerful men to evade accountability. The Chicago Tribune published an op-ed titled "The Strength of Ava Carmichael, Lauding Her Poise Under Pressure." Corporate repercussions were swift. A major investment round that Oliver had been courting fell apart. The few remaining partners in Carmichael Innovations distanced themselves, hastily removing Oliver's name from promotional materials and websites. Even philanthropic boards started voting him out to preserve their reputations. Ava watched the news unfold from Delilah's living room. It felt surreal to witness the magnitude of the fallout she had unleashed by simply speaking her truth. A twinge of guilt gnawed at her. Oliver's downfall was monumental, and part of her still cared about the father of her child. But she couldn't deny the satisfaction of finally freeing herself from complicity in his deception. Little did she realize the next blow in this unraveling saga would come not from tabloid headlines, but from a place with the power to permanently reshape Oliver's destiny, and by extension her own. Just when the media firestorm seemed at its peak, another bombshell dropped. The U.S. Attorney's Office announced a federal investigation into Carmichael Innovations. News broke that Oliver Carmichael was being indicted on charges of tax evasion, wire fraud, and securities fraud. The timing, mere days after Ava's press conference, sent shockwaves through financial circles. Cameras swarmed outside the federal courthouse as Oliver was spotted arriving with his legal team, forced to enter a plea in front of a judge. The humiliating spectacle was broadcast live, capturing every grimace and tense exchange. The very networks that once celebrated Oliver's philanthropic feats now tracked his every misstep. Ava learned of the indictment through a news alert on her phone. Her stomach churned. She sat on Delilah's couch phone in hand and watched the live coverage. Oliver looked haggard shadows under his eyes, the weight of impending consequences etched into his every movement. The charges carried severe penalties, if convicted. Oliver faced the possibility of a long prison sentence. This was beyond mere scandal. It was a life-altering reckoning. Yet the indictments also served as a shield for Ava. With formal charges laid against Oliver, Samantha Holden moved swiftly to bolster Ava's separation case, ensuring none of the allegedly laundered funds were connected to Ava or her unborn child. As the news cameras pivoted from sensational gossip to grave legal analysis, Ava felt a swirl of conflicting emotions, relief that she was extricating herself from Oliver's web of lies, sorrow for the father of her child, and a haunting worry about what kind of future lay ahead for her baby, one with a father potentially behind bars. The day after Oliver's court appearance, Ava woke to a text from an unknown number. "I'm sorry." "Oh." She stared at the message for several minutes, waves of sadness rolling through her. His apology was too little too late, like a whisper in a roaring storm. But it was better than silence. Over the next week, Oliver's attempts to contact her became more frequent. Voicemails and texts appeared daily. Ava listened to some tears gathering in her eyes as Oliver's usually confident voice cracked with desperation. He begged for forgiveness, confessed he had been reckless, and claimed to still love her. Yet Ava couldn't forget the nights he'd lied to her face. She couldn't erase the memory of that leaked video or the swirl of scorn she'd endured from the public, and she certainly couldn't ignore the federal charges. Samantha advised her not to respond, at least until the separation process and potential custody arrangements were established. But deep inside, Ava grappled with conflicting emotions. She remembered the Oliver who once left her handwritten love notes every morning, the Oliver who built a children's library wing at the local hospital. Could that man still exist? Or had he always been an illusion? In quiet moments, she would place a hand on her growing belly heart, aching for the child who might never know a father outside prison walls. For all Oliver's sins, Ava couldn't deny that she wished he had chosen a different path, one that might have let them remain a family. Despite the turmoil, Ava discovered she wasn't alone. In the wake of her public statement, letters of support flooded in from women who had faced similar betrayals. Some messages came from single mothers who offered encouragement and practical tips on raising a child independently. The outpouring moved Ava to tears. It gave her a renewed sense of resolve. Philanthropic circles that had once rolled out the red carpet for Oliver now embraced Ava instead. Organizers at the Wilson Children's Hospital invited her to speak at an upcoming fundraiser, praising her authenticity and resilience. Representatives from various women's advocacy groups reached out inviting her to collaborate on initiatives that assisted pregnant women in crisis. Ava felt a flicker of hope. Though her marriage was crumbling, she could funnel her pain into a new purpose, advocating for women caught in relationships eroded by power imbalances and betrayals. Delilah even suggested they start a foundation to provide legal and emotional support to pregnant women facing domestic or financial struggles. Yet with each invitation came the inevitable question, what's next for Oliver's wife? The irony wasn't lost on Ava. She was no longer Oliver's wife in any practical sense, but the world still tied her identity to his. She resolved to carve out her own name and mission, separate from his tarnished legacy. In her quieter moments, though, when the well-wishers and supporters had gone home, she still faced the emptiness left by Oliver's absence. Even with the world rallying around her some nights, she felt more alone than ever. A few weeks into Oliver's legal battles, Ava received a call from his attorney. He wanted to arrange a private meeting. No press, no cameras, just Oliver and Ava in a neutral location. The request startled her. A part of her had begun to imagine a future with no direct contact at all. Despite Samantha's caution, Ava agreed, feeling the child shift in her womb, like a gentle reminder that Oliver was still the father. They chose a small law firm's conference room downtown, one with tinted windows that blocked any paparazzi from capturing the encounter. Oliver arrived first. Dressed in a tailored suit, he looked paler, thinner, and burdened by a stress that had etched lines into his face. When Ava entered, they locked eyes. For a moment, neither spoke. The tension was so thick she could barely breathe. Finally, he broke the silence. "I know I've lost your trust, and maybe I'll never regain it. But I wanted to see you to ask about the baby." His voice was hushed, almost reverent. Ava swallowed, placing a protective hand on her belly. "The baby's fine, healthy," she said, her voice hoarse. "I'm due in a few months." Oliver exhaled a shaky breath, a mixture of relief and sorrow. "I made an unforgivable mistake. And now I'm paying for it in ways I never imagined. But if there's any chance at all, I want to be there when our child is born." A swirl of conflicting emotions welled in Ava. She wanted to protect herself, to keep him at arm's length. Yet she couldn't deny the child's need to know its father, assuming he wasn't behind bars. I can't promise anything right now," she replied cautiously. Oliver nodded, understanding that words wouldn't erase the hurt he'd caused. The meeting ended quietly with more questions than answers. As Ava left, she wondered if there was any glimmer of reconciliation, or if it was simply too late for that. Time moved forward, even if Ava felt stuck in emotional quicksand. Weeks turned into months, and her pregnancy edged into its final trimester. Her belly swelled, making everyday tasks more cumbersome, but also filling her with a fierce, protective love for the child growing inside. Oliver's legal battles took center stage in national media. Each court date brought fresh revelations of financial misconduct, fraudulent tax filings, shady shell companies, and possible insider trading. Courtroom sketches of Oliver flooded the news, capturing his anxious eyes and trembling posture. Still, he occasionally sent Ava messages, updates on his case lamentations about losing major assets, even an ultrasound-themed baby blanket he had purchased before the scandal blew up. Ava read and received these gestures with guarded compassion. She was no longer naive enough to believe they fixed anything, but she could see the desperation in his attempts. Meanwhile, Ava's philanthropic work blossomed. She collaborated with Liz White to hold a charity drive for underprivileged pregnant women, collecting baby supplies, prenatal vitamins, and funds for maternal care. The event drew significant media coverage, with many praising Ava for turning personal tragedy into positive impact. Through it all, she grappled with her upcoming childbirth, uncertain whether Oliver would or should be there. The clock was ticking toward a new life entering the world, and she had yet to reconcile the role Oliver would play. As each day passed, the question burned brighter. Could a man so consumed by lies and greed ever become a loving father? Ava's labor came unexpectedly one evening well before her due date. She had been at Delilah's brownstone, finalizing details for another charitable event, when a sharp pain sliced through her. Gasping, she doubled over, her heart pounding in sudden alarm. Delilah rushed her to the nearest hospital, the swirl of city lights casting an eerie glow against the anxious hush of the car ride. By the time they arrived, Ava's contractions had intensified, leaving her breathless and trembling. Nurses whisked her into a maternity suite, hooking her up to monitors. Panicked Delilah contacted Samantha Holden, who in turn thought to call Oliver's attorney. Within an hour, Oliver appeared at the hospital, looking frantic and disheveled. The medical staff recognized his face from the scandalous headlines, but remained professional. Ava, though startled to see him, was too overwhelmed by pun to protest. Time blurred in a dizzying swirl of contractions, medical jargon, and shouted encouragement. Ava was gripped by a primal blend of fear and determination, tears leaking from the corners of her eyes. Oliver hovered by her side, tentatively offering a hand. In her pain, she grasped it instinctively. Hours later, after what felt like an eternity, Ava heard the baby's first cry. Relief and awe collided in her chest. The nurse carefully placed a tiny, wriggling infant in Ava's arms. She sobbed, pressing kisses to the baby's delicate forehead. Through tear-blurred vision, she saw Oliver standing nearby, eyes shining with raw emotion. In that instant, their entire scandalous past receded, eclipsed by the fragile miracle of new life. Yet the question lingered. Would this fleeting moment of unity carve a lasting path forward for them? Or would the shadows of betrayal and legal peril snuff it out? Back at the hospital, Ava watched as Oliver gently rocked Amelia, his face softened with awe. For a moment, he looked like the man she once loved before Leeson scandal. He whispered stories to Amelia, promising to change to be present. Ava remained guarded. "This doesn't undo everything," she said quietly. "I know," Oliver replied, eyes on their daughter, "but I want to earn your trust back for her." Later, as discharge papers were signed, Oliver asked if he could come home with them. Ava paused, then shook her head. "Not yet. Amelia and I need time." He nodded visibly, crushed but respectful. "Thank you for letting me be here." As she cradled Amelia and stepped into the waiting car, Ava felt both the weight of the past and the hope of a future. Trust was fragile, but for her daughter's sake, she was willing to leave the door cracked just enough. In the weeks after Amelia's birth, Ava embraced motherhood in quiet refuge, away from media glare. Oliver, facing trial, visited often gentle with Amelia, sincere in his efforts. Ava remained cautious, but let him in a little at a time. Then came his sentencing. Found guilty of tax evasion and securities fraud, Oliver received 5 years in federal prison. Outside the courthouse, tears slipped down his face as he told Ava, "I'll serve my time. I hope there's still a chance for Amelia, and maybe for us." Ava, holding Amelia close, replied softly, "We'll see. One day at a time." As Oliver was led away, Ava stood beneath the Chicago sky, her daughter nestled in her arms. The fairy tale had crumbled, but something more honest remained a second chance. Not for romance, but for truth, for healing, and for a life finally free of secrets. She was ready to build that future, one step at a time. Ava Carmichael's life changed the moment the leaked footage of her husband's affair hit the internet. But it was the power of her own voice at that pivotal press conference that truly redefined her destiny. While Oliver's empire crumbled under the weight of his transgressions and legal battles, Ava emerged stronger, driven by her love for her newborn daughter and a determination to carve out a future rooted in truth. Ultimately, hers is a story of resilience, triumphing over betrayal of motherhood, guiding the path to self-discovery. Ava transformed from a silent figure overshadowed by her husband's fortune into a public advocate for women facing emotional, financial, and marital turmoil. Though Oliver's journey led him to a prison cell, Ava found the courage to stand on her own, proving that even the darkest revelations can pave the way for newfound purpose. If you found meaning or inspiration in Ava's journey, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support empowers us to uncover more stories that shine a light on the power of truth and resilience. Together, let's continue inspiring and uplifting one another, one extraordinary tale at a time. They say every marriage has its secrets, some small enough to slip under the radar, others large enough to crack the very foundations of trust. But what if the secret is discovered in the most unforgiving spotlight of all, a crowded upscale restaurant? And what if, at the exact moment, a wife learns about her husband's betrayal? She's carrying his child, unsure whether to expose him, protect him, or destroy everything in one impulsive move. This story follows the meteoric rise and catastrophic fall of Derek Harrington, a man who had it all until one dinner turned his world into a firestorm of scandal and investigation. Derek Harrington had always exuded a confidence that verged on arrogance. He was the type of man people noticed in a room, tall, well-groomed, with an intense gaze that made you think he saw your secrets before you even decided to trust him. At 37, he was already heading one of the fastest-growing private tech investment firms in the country. Harrington Ventures nestled in the heart of New York City. Many had whispered comparisons. He could be the next Elon Musk, or he's aiming to dethrone Bill Gates in philanthropic efforts. Of course, those comparisons were mostly hot air in the media, but Derek ate them up like candy and fueled his ambition further. He had grown up in a modest home in Syracuse, New York, the son of a middle school teacher and an unemployed mechanic. Derek swore to himself at a young age that he would never again know the taste of poverty and uncertainty. If there was a mountain, he would climb it. If there was a competitor, he would annihilate them, or better yet, buy them out. Ever since his first big deal, a startup buyout that netted him a cool $20 million by the age of 26, Derek became addicted to the thrill of high-stakes ventures. His wife, Catherine Harrington, was the silent strength behind him. Once Catherine Barnes, she had come from an entirely different world, an only child raised in Connecticut by a wealthy yet tight-knit family who adored her. Catherine's father, Alexander Barnes, had a small but respectable real estate firm that catered to elite clients. Catherine had an aura of class that Derek desperately needed. Although he was confident in boardrooms and pitch meetings, he often floundered in high society's intricacies. Catherine taught him how to navigate those elite circles with charm and grace. For the past 6 years, their marriage had been a blend of love-shared ambition and occasional tension, particularly since Derek began pouring all his time into Harrington Ventures. Catherine had repeatedly asked for a child, a family. Derek always said, soon pushing it down his list of priorities. But finally, to Catherine's breathless joy, she became pregnant. Derek, for his part, seemed excited, though many nights he would return home after midnight, exhausted, complaining about client dinners or late-night strategy sessions. Still, Catherine believed in him. She believed in his vision, in his ability to provide not just for her, but for their soon-to-arrive child. Even if love had cooled into routine, she trusted Derek would protect their family. She had no idea her entire life would be thrown upside down by one small choice, deciding to meet an old friend for dinner in the heart of Manhattan. Catherine had not planned to be at the upscale restaurant Aux Merveilles that particular night. She was 8 months pregnant and feeling more fatigued than usual. But her college friend, Melanie Carter, was passing through New York for the first time in years and insisted on seeing her. To Catherine, it felt like an unexpected gift, an escape from waiting at home alone for Derek to walk through the door at some unknown hour. Melanie had chosen Aux Merveilles because she'd read about it in a luxury travel magazine. The interior glimmered with crystal chandeliers, and each table was separated by translucent screens that glowed with soft amber light. The gentle hum of hushed conversations filled the air, occasionally interrupted by the clink of expensive dinnerware. Catherine arrived early, leaning on the hostess stand for a moment to steady herself. A sympathetic staff member immediately guided her to a plush velvet seat and offered a glass of water. She felt a bit out of place in her maternity dress, noting the swirl of elegant women in cocktail dresses and men in tailored suits. But she brushed off the discomfort. She was here to see her friend, not to impress the Manhattan elite. While waiting for Melanie, Catherine decided to freshen up in the restroom. On her way back, something caught her attention through the filmy screen of a private dining area. At first, she had no idea why her gaze lingered there. She could see a man's silhouette, tall and commanding, and across from him sat a slim figure with flowing dark hair. Catherine's heart twitched. The tilt of the man's head, the way he gestured with his hand, that was Derek's mannerism. But it couldn't be. Derek had told her he was in an urgent meeting on the other side of town. Her heart pounding. Catherine took careful steps toward the screen, making sure to stay hidden behind the plush drapery that separated the main dining area from the private alcoves. A waiter passed by, but she quickly turned away, pretending to examine a painting on the wall until he was gone. Then she returned her gaze to the table. Yes. It was Derek. He was dressed in a charcoal suit, the kind he wore for special private events. And he wasn't dining with a business associate. His companion was a woman with an air of cold, dazzling beauty. Catherine didn't recognize her immediately. Maybe she was a client. But then she noticed the way the woman's hand stretched across the table to rest on Derek's fingers, a gesture far too intimate for a business meeting. Catherine's stomach churned. She felt dizzy. She almost rushed forward to confront him, but some primal sense of caution rooted her to the spot. She wasn't prepared for a scene. She didn't know if she was strong enough to face the answers to the burning questions swirling in her mind. So she watched. Derek leaned in, and the woman did the same, her glossy black hair falling forward to frame her face. Catherine could make out the name Sabrina Chen from the conversation. They chuckled softly, and Derek brushed a strand of the woman's hair back behind her ear. Catherine's hands shook, tears threatening to flood her eyes. She pressed herself against the wall. She needed to get out of there, needed to breathe. She turned and hurried away, nearly running into a startled Melanie who was just arriving. Melanie took one look at Catherine's pale face, then glanced curiously at the private alcove. "Are you okay?" she asked, hands gripping Catherine's arms gently. "My goodness, you look like you've seen a ghost." In a strangled voice, Catherine replied, "I'm not feeling well, Mel. Can we go somewhere else?" Melanie, always sensitive, nodded without question. She guided Catherine outside, hailed a taxi, and insisted they go back to Catherine's penthouse so she could rest. Catherine murmured something about not wanting to be alone, about needing to talk. Once in the taxi, she told Melanie everything, that Derek was there with another woman, clearly more than a business associate. Her friend listened, anger flaming in her eyes. "You need to confront him," Melanie said. "He can't get away with this, especially now when you're about to have his child." But Catherine felt paralyzed. Her mind spun with a million scenarios, none of them good. She wanted the safety of denial, to pretend she didn't witness the betrayal. But she also wanted the raw truth. By the time they reached her penthouse, she had made a decision she would wait for Derek to come home. He would have to look her in the eye and explain. Night stretched on with excruciating slowness. Melanie offered to stay, but Catherine insisted she'd manage. She needed to confront her husband alone. So Melanie left with repeated promises that Catherine call her for any reason, day or night. The apartment felt cavernous once Catherine was alone. Her baby kicked inside her as if sensing her mother's distress. Sometime near midnight, Catherine dozed off on the living room couch, still in her maternity dress and heels, phone clutched in her trembling hand. She awoke to the click of the front door. Derek stepped in laptop bag over his shoulder tie, slightly loosened. He paused when he saw her lying on the couch in the dim light. "You're still awake?" he asked, crossing the room to place a kiss on her forehead. His breath smelled faintly of wine. Catherine recoiled, the sting of his betrayal fresh in her mind. She struggled to compose herself, but emotion burst forth. "Where were you?" Derek froze, obviously caught off guard by her accusatory tone. "I told you I had a meeting." "Don't lie," Catherine shouted. "I saw you, Derek. I saw you at Aux Merveilles with some woman named Sabrina Chen. You were touching her hair." She choked on the words, tears forming again. Derek's face went pale, then hardened with defiance. "You were spying on me." "Catherine, what were you doing there? Having dinner with a friend," she shot back. "But that's not the point. Don't try to twist this around. Just tell me the truth." He ran a hand through his hair, pacing. "She's just a client. Nothing more. The hair thing, it was just a friendly gesture. You know how these international investors can be. They appreciate closeness, personal connections. She's considering a large investment in Harrington Ventures." Catherine stared at him, heart twisting with disbelief. "I'm not a child, Derek. I know what I saw. That was no casual client dinner." He let out a breath, lips pressed together. "Okay. We're close. But it's complicated. Sabrina has connections with major stakeholders in Asia. She expects a certain rapport. If I don't keep her happy, we could lose a multi-million-dollar deal. So you're sleeping with her to make her invest." Catherine's voice trembled with fury and despair. "It's not that simple," Derek said, but he didn't deny it. "This is business, Catherine. And it's not... it's not what you think. Yes, she's flirtatious. Maybe I crossed a line, but it's for the company, for our future." Catherine stood, a surge of anger giving her strength, even in her pregnant state. "Our future, our child's future. This is how you plan to secure it, by betraying me." Derek's eyes flickered with guilt. But then he hardened again. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under. Harrington Ventures is on the verge of a major breakthrough. A single large investment could catapult us into the realm of industry giants. I can't afford to let moral qualms hold me back." Catherine felt as if the floor were dropping out from beneath her. She recognized Derek's ambition had always been borderline obsessive. But hearing him admit he'd compromised their marriage, the very sanctity of their relationship just for a deal, she had no words. A wave of exhaustion crashed over her, mingled with heartbreak. "Get out," she finally managed, voice weak yet resolute. "Catherine," he started. She turned away. "Sleep in the guest room. I can't even look at you right now." He opened his mouth to argue, then thought better of it. Silent, he retreated to the guest bedroom, leaving Catherine to collapse onto the couch in tears. As she drifted in a half-conscious state of heartbreak, a single question throbbed in her mind. How could he do this to us? Sunlight spilled through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse, stirring Catherine from a fitful sleep. She sat up, her body aching from the night spent on the couch. She half expected Derek to appear with an apology or at least an explanation better than it's for the deal. But the apartment was silent. A check of the guest room revealed he was gone. No note, no text. Only the faint smell of his cologne in the hallway. Catherine felt bitterness coil inside her like a snake. Had he left for work as though nothing had happened? Trying to compose herself, she went about her morning routine, feeding their fluffy grey cat Winston, who circled her legs anxiously, making a cup of tea, gazing out at the city skyline. But none of it soothed her. Her phone buzzed with a message from Melanie. She simply texted, "I'm here for you," followed by a heart emoji. Catherine typed a quick thanks and debated what to do next. Should she confront Derek at his office? Should she call her father? Confide in him? Then as she paced through the living room, the TV caught her attention. A news ticker scrolled across the bottom, and the anchor's solemn voice filled the silence. Ongoing investigation into potential insider trading and financial misconduct at Harrington Ventures. Derek Harrington's office has not yet released a statement, but sources say officials from the SEC are looking into suspicious activity. Catherine fumbled for the remote and turned up the volume. Her heart pounded with alarm. Investigation insider trading. This was the first she'd heard of anything official. The anchor went on. Harrington Ventures soared to prominence in the last few years, drawing comparisons to major tech moguls like Elon Musk and Bill Gates. But now regulators question whether certain investment gains came from illicitly obtained information. Derek Harrington was spotted at a private dinner last night with an unidentified associate, leading to speculation on whether this meeting is connected to the alleged misconduct. In that moment, Catherine felt a strange mixture of shock and vindication. She remembered the hush of Oxmervale, the private table Derek's murmured conversation with Sabrina Chen. Was this the reason for that meeting? She grabbed her phone and scrolled through financial news sites. All of them were erupting with the story. Harrington Ventures under siege. One headline read, "Inside the SEC probe teased another." She found nothing that concretely linked Sabrina Chen to the scandal, only rumors that Derek was meeting with someone who might hold the key to hush money or secret deals. Anxiety clawed at Catherine's stomach. This was beyond a marital betrayal. It might be a legal catastrophe. She needed answers. She dialed Derek's cell, but it went straight to voicemail. Her next thought was to contact his assistant, the ever-efficient Amanda Wu, who always picked up or responded promptly. But even Amanda's phone rang until voicemail kicked in. Fearing the worst, Catherine decided to put aside her heartbreak for a moment and do what she could to protect her family. She reached for her coat and bag, then headed out the door, determined to confront Derek at his office if necessary. The offices of Harrington Ventures occupied the 20th through 22nd floors of a gleaming steel and glass tower in Midtown. When Catherine arrived, the usual bustle in the lobby was replaced by a tense hush. Small clusters of employees whispered, casting anxious glances toward a row of men in dark suits who were busy rifling through documents and laptops. It was clear the investigation was well underway. Catherine stepped off the elevator on the 22nd floor, where Derek's corner office overlooked the city. She braced herself for the sight of more investigators. Instead, she found the reception area swarming with them. She approached a stern-faced man, flipping through files. "Excuse me, I'm Catherine Harrington. I need to see my husband." He regarded her warily. "Do you have an appointment?" She almost laughed at the absurdity. "Appointment, I'm his wife. Is Derek in his office?" The man jerked his head toward a closed door. "He's in a meeting with the SEC officials and his legal team. Best if you wait." Catherine felt her patience slip. "I'm not waiting," she said firmly. Without another glance, she marched to Derek's office door and turned the handle. Locked. She knocked, ignoring the mutterings of the investigators behind her. After an agonizing minute, the door swung open, revealing Derek's lawyer. A slim woman in a sharp navy suit, a phone pressed to her ear. She looked Catherine up and down. "Mrs. Harrington." "We're in the middle of something." Derek's voice cut through. "Let her in." The lawyer stepped aside and Catherine entered the office. Derek stood at his desk, arms folded, face drawn and tired. Two men in dark suits sat in chairs across from him, notes scattered on the table. They regarded Catherine neutrally before turning back to Derek. "We'll give you a moment," one of the men said, as they gathered up their documents and stepped out. An awkward hush fell. Catherine closed the door behind them. For a heartbeat, she and Derek just stared at each other, the memory of last night's argument hanging between them. His eyes flickered with guilt concern, and something else, maybe relief. "Catherine?" He began running a hand over his face. "I was going to call you once this settled." Her anger reignited at his dismissive tone. "Settled, Derek. You're under investigation by the SEC. This isn't a small pothole in the road. The news is everywhere." He sighed. "Look, I can't say much right now. It's an internal matter, and our lawyers say we should cooperate, but keep quiet publicly. There have been rumors of insider trading, but it's a misunderstanding. We're sorting it out." "A misunderstanding," Catherine repeated. "Does this have anything to do with Sabrina Chen and last night's dinner?" Derek flinched at the name. "Why would you think—" "Because the news outlets are already speculating about it." "Derek," she hissed. "If you were with her to discuss some insider deal—" "Stop," he cut in, raising a hand. "I can't talk about her. Not here, not now. Let's just say I have things under control." Catherine couldn't believe what she was hearing. Under control? "Derek, the entire office is crawling with investigators. I can't even reach your assistant." Amanda was told not to talk to anyone without the lawyers present, Derek said tightly. "She's in a conference room with them now. This is standard procedure." "Standard procedure?" Catherine echoed, her voice faint with incredulity. "How far does this go, Derek? Because if you think I'm going to sit at home pregnant while you're possibly facing criminal charges—" "I didn't do anything illegal," he snapped, though sweat beaded at his temple. "Sabrina, it's complicated. She brought me some stock tips about a company we were considering investing in. She claimed she had reliable leads." "You used them?" Catherine pressed her heart, pounding. He swallowed. "Not exactly. I just moved some assets around. I didn't know it would be considered insider information. She told me it was her own research, that it was legit. I never expected the SEC to come knocking." Catherine's mind reeled. So he had used Sabrina's tips, likely crossing a line into illegal territory. She stared at him, struggling to reconcile the charismatic man she fell in love with, the father of her unborn child, with this desperate figure in front of her. Finally she said, "What do you want from me?" "Derek." He looked pained. "I need you to trust me. I'm meeting with Sabrina this afternoon to clarify things. She owes me an explanation. If she fed me illegal tips, it's on her. My lawyers can argue that I was deceived." Catherine's breath caught. "You're meeting her again? After last night?" "It's business," he insisted. "Look, I get how bad this looks. But if you want to protect our family, you'll let me handle this. I promise I'll fix it." Part of Catherine wanted to cling to the hope that he could, but she saw the desperation in his eyes, the guilt and confusion swirling there. His ambition, once so inspiring, had turned into a reckless obsession that might cost him everything. Maybe she should walk away, call her father, pack a bag and leave. But she couldn't, at least not yet. She carried his child, and some piece of her still loved him. She nodded once. "Fine. But I'm not leaving you alone in this. I'm staying in the city. I'll do what I can to help." Derek exhaled relief passing over his face. He reached for her hands, but she stepped back. "I'll trust you for now," she said, voice trembling. "But remember, Derek, trust isn't infinite. You've already broken it once." That afternoon, Catherine found herself restless, pacing the penthouse. The SEC had allowed Derek to remain at the office, but insisted he provide any requested documents on demand. His phone was undoubtedly monitored, and Sabrina Chen was labeled a person of interest. Catherine tried to focus on calm. She set up a quiet corner to rest, turned on soft classical music, and attempted to soothe the baby within her. Yet every time she shut her eyes, she saw Derek leaning across that table, saw him gently touching Sabrina's hair. How did we get here? She wondered. Have I been so naive? A phone call from an unfamiliar number broke her reverie. She picked up, heart hammering. A woman's voice spoke clipped and professional. "Hello, Mrs. Harrington. My name is Caroline Patterson. I'm a journalist at the New York Daily Mirror. We're working on a story about your husband's company. Would you be willing to provide a statement?" Catherine's mouth went dry. "No comment," she said hastily, ending the call. But within minutes, another call came from yet another journalist. And then another. It seemed the entire press corps had decided to ring her up in search of a sensational quote. She turned off her phone, trembling with anxiety. The day crawled by. When Derek finally returned home, it was well past 8. Catherine opened the door to find him grim-faced, tie, undone hair disheveled. He looked like a man fighting a war on multiple fronts. "Any progress?" Catherine asked quietly. He nodded. "Lawyers say there's no direct evidence yet. Just allegations that we traded on insider info for a few deals. But they'll keep digging. As for Sabrina..." He paused, looking away. "We spoke. She claims she's just a scapegoat. She said she's taking a flight back to Hong Kong tomorrow, and that the SEC can't touch her there." Catherine's stomach twisted. "So she's running." He shrugged. "Or, so she says. I tried to get her to talk to my lawyers, but she refused. She's not answering calls anymore. My attorneys are furious. They say if she disappears, it'll make me look even worse, like we're trying to hide something." Catherine eyed him. "Are you still sleeping with her?" Derek's cheeks burned red. "No." "Catherine, I messed up." "Okay. I let things get too close, but it was never serious. Not on my end." She wanted to believe him, but suspicion dug its claws into her mind. "Is that the truth, or just what you need me to believe?" He hesitated. "I'm not lying to you. Look, I promise you my relationship with Sabrina was purely for business connections. Maybe it crossed lines, but I never intended to leave you. Or..." She shook her head, tears threatening again. "How noble," she whispered sarcastically. "Derek, I can't keep doing this. I can't watch you destroy yourself and our marriage in this pursuit of power." He reached for her, his hand trembling. For the first time, she sensed he was truly afraid. "Catherine, if we can get past this, I'll change. I'll make it right. Just stand by me, please." Looking into his eyes, she saw remnants of the man she'd married, the one who had once had dreams of giving them a beautiful life. Hesitantly, she placed her hand on his cheek. He closed his eyes, leaning into her touch. They stayed like that for a moment, broken but together. By the next morning, Catherine felt an urgent need for counsel. She made a phone call to someone she knew and trusted her father, Alexander Barnes. Despite their somewhat strained relationship, he had never fully approved of Derek's rags to riches aggression. Her father was a steady presence in her life. "Dad," she said quietly when he picked up. "Things are bad. Derek's company is under investigation. There's rumors of insider trading." She heard him exhale. "I saw the news. Are you all right?" "I don't know," she confessed. "He might have been unfaithful too." "I feel like everything is spiraling." Her father's voice softened. "Sweetheart, you need to take care of yourself. Think about my grandchild. Stress can't be good for the baby." She stifled a sob. "I know. Dad, what should I do? Should I leave him?" Alexander was silent for a moment. "I can't decide that for you. But listen, Catherine Derek has always been a risk-taker. That's what made him successful. But it can also lead to ruin if he isn't careful. You have to consider if you can trust him to change. And if not..." She closed her eyes. "I understand." He cleared his throat. "If you need a place to stay, come home. Your old room is waiting, or I can set you up in a nearby property. No pressure. But I won't let you face this alone." Tears welled in her eyes, but she felt a measure of warmth. "Thank you, Dad. I'll let you know." After the call ended, Catherine sat by the window, watching the Manhattan skyline shimmer under the morning sun. Memories danced in her mind. Meeting Derek at a charity gala, her father hosted the spark in his eyes as he talked about turning dreams into reality, the sweet way he'd slipped a note into her coat pocket with an invitation for a first date. Where had that man gone? Meanwhile, Derek's day took a dramatic turn. He was set to appear for a voluntary discussion at the SEC offices downtown. His lawyers insisted that showing openness would help. But an hour before he was supposed to leave, a text from an unknown number arrived. "Meet me at the Park Regency Hotel room, T02. Urgent. Sabrina." His heart pounded. Why would Sabrina risk contacting him now, especially if she was supposedly leaving the country? He showed the text to his head lawyer, Edward Langley, who frowned. "That's ill-advised. She's already under suspicion." Derek frowned. "But if she has evidence to exonerate me or some angle we can use, it could save the company." Langley shook his head. "We can't stop you from going, but this is dangerous. If the SEC finds out, they might interpret it as conspiracy. You should consider letting me or one of the associates go with you." But Derek shook his head. "She might not talk if there's a lawyer present. I'll go alone, but I'll record everything." Langley frowned more deeply. "Just be careful. And whatever you do, don't offer her money or anything that can be interpreted as bribery." Derek nodded grimly. He texted Sabrina back. "I'll be there in 30 minutes. Then he instructed his driver to head to the Park Regency. Anxiety prickled his skin as he imagined the worst: a sting operation, a setup by the SEC, or even blackmail from Sabrina herself. When he arrived at room 1902, he found the door slightly ajar. He knocked softly, hearing the faint sound of classical music from inside. Sabrina's voice called out, "Come in." He stepped into the suite, scanning the opulent living area. Marble floors, plush sofas, fresh roses on the coffee table. Sabrina stood by a window wearing a sleek black dress. She looked impeccable every inch, the mysterious femme fatale. Her gaze locked on Derek. "Don't be shy," she said with a purr. "We don't have much time." Derek hesitated by the door. "Why did you call me here?" She beckoned him over. As he stepped forward, she gestured for him to sit on the sofa. He remained standing. "I'm not staying long." "Talk." Sabrina smiled, though tension radiated off her. "I'm leaving for Hong Kong in a few hours. I just wanted to mend things between us." "I never meant for you to get in trouble." He shook his head, anger flaring. "You handed me illegal tips. That's exactly how I got in trouble." She narrowed her eyes. "Don't pretend you didn't know the risks, Derek. You're a smart man. No one invests millions blindly. You could have done your own diligence, but you were too eager." He opened his mouth to retort, but she continued. "Anyway, let's not argue about the past. I have a proposition. I can provide documentation that proves I misled you, that I told you it was my own research, and you relied on it in good faith. If the SEC sees that you could walk away with little more than a slap on the wrist." Derek's heart skipped. "So you'll confess to lying?" She shrugged, a coy smile on her lips. "I'll say whatever you need me to say, for the right price." He clenched his jaw. "What price?" She sauntered to a small table and picked up a folder. "I have it all here, emails, transcripts. It's quite convincing. I want $5 million. Derek nearly choked. $5 million? Sabrina. That's blackmail. Her lips curled. Call it compensation. I'll be ostracized from my circles. I can't do business with you or your connections again. I'll have to rebuild from scratch. Derek's mind spun. $5 million was no small amount, but his company was worth hundreds of millions. If the investigation destroyed it, he could lose everything. Still, even if paying Sabrina might clear him, it was absolutely illegal to bribe a witness. This could bury him deeper in legal trouble. He took a step back, shaking his head. I can't do that. My lawyers would kill me. She rolled her eyes. Your lawyers, Derek. You won't need them if you're indicted. You'll be lucky to avoid jail. He stared at her, fury boiling. So this was your plan all along? To reel me in, feed me these tips and then blackmail me? Sabrina's eyes flashed. Don't be naive. You pursued me for my connections. We used each other. Now let's finish the transaction. He exhaled, attempting to steady himself. I won't pay you a cent. If you have evidence that can help me, provide it. If not, get out of my way. Her expression hardened. Think carefully, Derek. You have a lot to lose. He turned to the door. I'm done with you. As he left, his heart pounded not just with anger, but with fear. Fear that Sabrina might release evidence that would incriminate him further, or worse, twist the facts to frame him entirely. The upcoming meeting at the SEC loomed large in his mind. Back at the Harrington Ventures office, Derek quickly informed Langley of what had transpired. The lawyer's face turned pale. She asked for money. Derek, if we even hint at paying her, it could be seen as witness tampering. We have to disclose this to the SEC, or they might discover it later and accuse us of hiding it. Derek groaned. You're right. Let's get it over with. The two hurried to the SEC building where they were ushered into a conference room. Catherine, who'd insisted on coming along for moral support, sat quietly in the corner. She offered Derek a small nod of encouragement. Despite everything, she was there for him. The lead investigator, a meticulous woman named Francesca Morales, greeted them with cool politeness. Mr. Harrington, we appreciate your cooperation. We have a few questions. Langley gave a tight smile. We want to go on record that Ms. Sabrina Chen attempted to solicit money in exchange for certain statements. We did not comply. Morales leaned forward, interest piqued. That's quite an allegation. Do you have proof? Derek remembered that he had switched on his phone's recording as soon as Sabrina started talking. He glanced at Langley, who nodded. They handed over the audio file. It was risky, but they had no choice. If Sabrina tried to sell a false narrative, at least they had evidence she'd demanded money. Morales listened with headphones, her stern face revealing little reaction. Finally, she removed the headphones. We'll need to verify the authenticity of this recording. For now, it appears Ms. Chen may have engaged in blackmail. She then fixed Derek with a penetrating gaze. But that doesn't absolve you, Mr. Harrington. Regardless of Ms. Chen's motives, if you used insider information knowingly or not, you remain accountable. Derek swallowed. I understand. The interrogation began, and it felt like a slow, agonizing dance. Morales asked about each investment, each conversation with Sabrina, each trade made in the weeks prior. Derek tried to remain calm, giving honest answers, but stopping whenever Langley advised him to. At times, Catherine interjected small clarifications, like how Derek spent nights working on legitimate research, how he had never shown awareness of wrongdoing. Morales took notes meticulously. Finally, after hours, they were dismissed. Langley told them it might take weeks for the SEC to decide whether to press charges, but at least they hadn't been arrested. Catherine managed a small sigh of relief, but Derek's expression was still grim. This is far from over, he muttered. News of the SEC meeting spread quickly through financial circles. Rumors persisted that Sabrina Chen had fled the country. The press speculated wildly. Did the pregnant wife know, secret mistress, at center of scandal billionaire, playboy, or savvy businessman? Each headline more lurid than the last. Investors began pulling out. Harrington Ventures' stock, though private, was partially linked to a public affiliate, and its share price dropped precipitously in after-hours trading. Derek scrambled to reassure stakeholders. He wrote emails, made phone calls, pleaded for patience. Some listened, others distanced themselves. The board of directors called an emergency meeting to discuss damage control. Catherine watched the meltdown with growing horror. She wanted to stand by Derek, but each day more revelations emerged about how close he and Sabrina had been. Photos surfaced of them at charity galas, at private dinners, looking more intimate than Derek had admitted. The press ran with the story, painting a picture of a torrid affair. Catherine felt herself roiling with a mix of jealousy, betrayal, and lingering love. One night, Derek returned home, late, throwing his keys on the kitchen counter in frustration. We lost another investor. The board is furious. Catherine, who had been restless all evening, approached him tentatively. You need a strong public statement, she suggested. Something that clarifies everything from the insider trading allegations to your relationship with Sabrina. He slammed his fist on the counter. I can't talk about the investigation publicly, Catherine. The lawyers forbid it. And as for Sabrina, I'd just be fueling the tabloid fire. She tried to maintain composure. So you do nothing? His face twisted with exhaustion. Yes, for now. We do nothing. The lawyers say we need to wait until the SEC finishes their inquiry. Then we can mount a defense. Catherine nodded numbly. She felt shut out. Every day, the tension in the penthouse grew heavier, as if invisible walls were closing in. And Derek seemed to alternate between frantic action and stony silence, leaving Catherine alone in her swirling thoughts. A few days later, Catherine's father showed up unannounced at the penthouse. Derek had gone to the office. She welcomed Alexander in, offering him tea. He studied her face, concern etched in his expression. "You look exhausted," he said. "I can't sleep," Catherine admitted. "I keep replaying everything in my head." Alexander placed a comforting hand on hers. "Come home with me, at least for a while, to clear your head. Give Derek space to sort this out." She hesitated, torn. I don't want to abandon him." Alexander sighed. "You wouldn't be abandoning him, dear. But you're pregnant, stressed, and it's not healthy. You need calm surroundings, not SEC investigators and salacious tabloids." Catherine thought of the baby, the life growing inside her. She felt a pang of guilt. She was so consumed by Derek's crisis, she barely paused to consider her own well-being. After a long moment, she nodded. "You're right. Let me pack a bag. If Derek wants to talk, he knows how to reach me." Within an hour, she was in her father's car, heading toward the tranquility of Connecticut. She left a short note for Derek. "I'm going to Dad's for a few days to rest. I hope you understand." She didn't expect an immediate response, and she got none. Days turned into a week. Catherine settled into a guest suite at her father's estate, where the staff fussed over her, ensuring she had healthy meals and plenty of rest. She felt her body relax bit by bit, though her heart still weighed heavy. She kept an eye on the news. Harrington Ventures seemed to be on the brink. More rumors of a mass investor exodus, talk of a possible resignation by Derek if indicted. Then one afternoon, Catherine received a call from an unexpected source, Amanda Wu, Derek's assistant. Amanda's voice trembled with urgency. "Mrs. Harrington, I'm sorry to bother you, but there's something you should know." Catherine gripped the phone. "What is it?" A man came by the office, Kyle Peterson, one of Derek's old associates. He claimed to have documents that could prove Derek's innocence. But Derek is so busy fighting fires, he barely gave Kyle the time of day. Kyle said he discovered that Sabrina Chen had conspired with another firm to sabotage Harrington Ventures. He said it was personal for her. She wanted to ruin Derek. Something about an old family feud. Catherine's pulse raced. Wait, an old family feud? Sabrina never mentioned anything like that. "I don't have details," Amanda said. "But Kyle swore he has proof. Sabrina manipulated data to make it look like Derek was trading on insider info, when in fact it was all her doing. He tried emailing Derek, but with the SEC monitor it might get lost. I think Derek's ignoring him because it sounds too far-fetched. But Kyle seems genuine." Catherine thought back to Sabrina's chilling composure, her blackmail attempt. Maybe Sabrina had orchestrated the entire fiasco, setting Derek up for a fall, while reaping her own profit. It was a terrifying thought, but it made sense given her abrupt disappearance and hush-money demands. "Amanda, can you put me in touch with Kyle directly?" Catherine asked. "Of course. I'll text you his number." Minutes later, Catherine spoke to Kyle. He explained that Sabrina's father, Wei Chen, once competed with Derek for a major Chinese tech merger. Derek's success had apparently cost Wei Chen a fortune and tarnished his reputation back home. Kyle believed Sabrina sought revenge under the guise of forging a business relationship, planning to entangle Derek in legal trouble. She fed him tips that appeared legitimate, but in reality they were gleaned from corporate espionage or manipulated data. Then she let the SEC discover them. "I have documents showing Sabrina's father orchestrated the entire infiltration," Kyle said, "and also a recorded phone call where Sabrina brags about how easy it was to seduce Derek into compliance." Catherine felt anger and relief swirl together. If Kyle's evidence was real, it could vindicate Derek. "Why didn't you come forward sooner?" He hesitated. I only discovered it a few days ago, rummaging through old servers and unsubscribed email accounts. I used to manage some side projects with Derek, but we parted ways after a disagreement. I had no idea Sabrina's infiltration ran this deep. I thought I owed it to Derek to come clean now. "Thank you," Catherine said earnestly. "Please get those documents to Derek's lawyers. And also send a copy to me." Catherine returned to the city the very next day. Her father tried to persuade her otherwise, but she insisted. "If these documents can save Derek, I need to be there," she said. At Harrington Ventures, she found Derek hunched over a conference table, scattered with papers, eyes bloodshot. The board was in an uproar. The SEC investigation was intensifying. Media outlets were calling him the next Bernie Madoff. It was chaos. Catherine entered the room and placed her hand on Derek's shoulder. He flinched at first, then turned to see her. A mixture of surprise and relief flashed across his face. "Catherine, you're back." She nodded. "I have news. I spoke to Kyle Peterson." Derek frowned. "Kyle, I haven't seen him in ages." Quickly, Catherine explained what Kyle had told her. She saw Derek's eyes widen, a spark of hope igniting. "If he really has that evidence, we can prove Sabrina was the mastermind. This changes everything." "It does," Catherine agreed. "We need to move fast, though, before Sabrina disappears for good." Derek called an emergency meeting with Langley and the legal team. Kyle arrived with a briefcase full of documents and digital files. He walked them through each piece of evidence, showing how Sabrina had infiltrated Harrington Ventures, forged research reports, and leaked them to Derek under false pretenses. The final damning piece, a recorded phone call, where Sabrina gleefully admitted Derek is so hungry for power, he won't even question where the data comes from. By the time the SEC is done with him, he'll be ruined. Langley's eyes shone with triumph. "This is exactly what we need. With this, we can build a defense that Derek was the victim of fraud. He'll still face questions about his due diligence, but it's a significant shift in liability." Derek looked stunned, as if someone had handed him a life preserver, just as he was drowning. He turned to Catherine, voice thick. "I don't deserve you. I was so reckless. I should have known better." She placed a hand over his. "Let's just get through this." Armed with the new evidence, Derek's lawyers presented everything to the SEC. The response was immediate and dramatic. Francesca Morales grilled them for hours, verifying the documents, analyzing the authenticity of the recordings, and cross-checking them against Sabrina's earlier claims. 2 days later, the SEC issued a statement. They were redirecting the focus of the investigation toward Sabrina Chen and her associates. Derek remained under scrutiny for negligence, but the criminal angle for insider trading was all but dropped. The media pounced on the story of the scheming mistress, fueling a new wave of scandalous headlines. But for Derek, the worst legal nightmares seemed to recede. He wasn't out of the woods. Entirely civil penalties for failing to perform proper diligence could still be on the table, and Harrington Ventures' reputation was badly tarnished. Investors remained wary, but at least the threat of prison no longer loomed. Throughout the madness, Catherine stayed by Derek's side, though their personal relationship remained strained. She had forgiven him enough to fight for his exoneration, but the wound of his betrayal festered. One evening, after a grueling day of damage control, they sat in the living room. Derek poured himself a stiff drink, offered Catherine sparkling water instead. They sipped in silence. "Thank you," he finally said, "for not walking away, for finding Kyle, for everything." She nodded. I did it for our child, and maybe for the Derek I thought I knew. He winced at that. She continued, "Where do we go from here?" He drained his glass. "I can't pretend this didn't happen. I failed you. I was so blinded by ambition, I forgot the vows we made. And Sabrina," Catherine cut in gently. "Let's not talk about her anymore." She sighed. "I'm not sure what's next for us, but I do know that if we're going to move forward, we need honesty therapy and time." He closed his eyes, a single tear escaping. "I'll do whatever it takes." In the weeks that followed, Derek officially stepped back from the CEO role of Harrington Ventures, appointing a trusted associate to steady the ship while he sorted out the final legal tangles. The board reluctantly agreed, seeing that Derek had become a lightning rod for controversy. Meanwhile, Catherine focused on her impending motherhood. She invited Derek to prenatal appointments, and he came. Their interactions remained cautious, but as they witnessed the ultrasound images and heard the baby's heartbeat, a profound sense of shared responsibility bound them. Then one crisp autumn morning, Catherine went into labor. Derek rushed her to the hospital, eyes wild with worry. Hours later, they welcomed a baby boy, whom they named Andrew Alexander Harrington. Andrew for Derek's late grandfather and Alexander for Catherine's father. Holding their newborn son, Catherine and Derek felt something shift. The swirling chaos of the past months faded, replaced by a fragile hope. They had survived betrayal scandal and near financial ruin, but life had given them this new beginning, a chance to change. Epilogue. Short conclusion. Within the novel. Over the next year, the SEC investigation wrapped up. Derek settled the negligence charge with a hefty fine and strict compliance measures. Harrington Ventures, though, rebounded under new leadership, and Derek devoted himself to philanthropic initiatives while quietly rebuilding trust among colleagues and loved ones. Sabrina Chen never resurfaced in the US, rumored to be hiding out in Hong Kong under her father's protection, though whispers of further legal action haunted her. For Catherine and Derek, the road to healing was long and winding. They attended counseling, learned to communicate more honestly, and above all focused on raising little Andrew in an environment of love and stability. Through tearful confessions and late-night heart-to-hearts, Catherine began to forgive, and Derek sought to become the man she deserved. It wasn't a fairy tale ending, life rarely is. But in the hush of their child's laughter and the quiet strength of renewed commitment, they found the seeds of something real, something worth preserving. And though the headlines had screamed betrayal and scandal, the final pages of their story were yet unwritten, carrying the possibility of redemption and a new kind of happiness. Life can twist and turn in the most unexpected ways. For Derek and Catherine Harrington, what began as a shocking betrayal escalated into a high-stakes legal drama threatening to tear their lives apart. Yet amidst scandal and heartbreak, they discovered a glimmer of resilience and a reminder that even when everything seems lost, hope can emerge from the shadows. In this story, we've witnessed secrets laid bare, ambitions tested, and a love that struggled to survive the storm. Ultimately, it is a testament to the power of truth and the choices we make in the wake of our deepest regrets. If you found yourself enthralled by the twists and turns of Derek and Catherine's journey, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more captivating tales of ambition, betrayal, and redemption. Your support allows us to continue bringing such stories to life, and we can't wait to share the next chapter with you.